Welcome to Legal Studies, and today we're going to be learning about the means by which individuals can influence law reform, and in particular we are going to be focusing on the use of courts. Where are we in our study design? Well, here we are, right here. We've just finished learning about both petitions and demonstrations. Now we're going to look at how an individual can take a case to court and have a really huge impact on what the law is. So we've sort of studied this really all throughout the course, and it should be a familiar idea to you now, but basically, if you really strongly think that the law is wrong and should be changed, one of the most powerful ways of achieving that change is taking the matter into your own hands and taking it to court and having a judge declare that the law is invalid. And that can have a really huge immediate impact. It can invalidate the law and force Parliament to make a new law. All right, so it can be an extremely powerful way of making change. Some examples, one that we should already be familiar with is our Mabo case, in which Eddie Mabo challenged the idea of terra nullius, challenged the idea that Australia was empty when European colonizers came here, and in doing so managed to win native title for his people. So massive shift in the law, overturned 150 years of settled precedent. That's an example of an individual person, Mabo, one guy, making a huge impact by bringing a case to court. Our second case here, which you may not have heard of before, is called the Sharma case, and this is pretty interesting. This involved a couple of young adults like yourself, 17 and 18-year-olds in school still, who challenged our government, our environment minister, and sued them for basically allowing harm to occur to our environment, allowing global warming to get worse. And in their original case, they won. And the judge said that our government had a duty of care to take care of our younger generation, to take care of our climate, and to protect them from harm. So originally they won, which was a great and positive step forward. They did lose on appeal, but that's how law changes. You know, you might win the first case, you might lose on appeal, but over time, more and more cases like this might be brought to court, and eventually the court might decide, you know what, actually, let's make this change for real. And potentially our High Court could be looking at decisions like that in the next 10 or 15 years. So those are some examples for us. Now, really what we need for this topic is our strengths and weaknesses. You know, what are the pros and cons of trying to use the court system to make changes to the law? As I mentioned already, it can have some really serious strengths. If you take the law, if you challenge a law and take it to court, you can have that court declare that the law is completely invalid. And you could force Parliament to throw the law out and start again. Even if your challenge is unsuccessful, though, you might get really serious media coverage. So even if you lose, which is what happened in the Sharma case eventually, even though those kids lost eventually, it generates media coverage, and that puts pressure on Parliament, and that might still lead to a change in the law, even if you lose your case. On the other hand, some weaknesses of this process, well, we already know that courts can be limited sometimes in their ability to make the law. Court cases are expensive, they take time, you need to have legal standing. All of these limit the opportunities for people to bring cases to court, which makes it sort of harder to use this as a method for influencing court. And in general, people are pretty reluctant to want to go to court. It's usually considered sort of last resort sort of thing. On the other hand, flipping back to some strengths, we know that judges are politically independent, right? They don't have to worry about an election, so they can make a decision that they think is right based on the merits of the case, rather than worrying about controversy, rather than worrying about facing backlash from the electorate. So this can be a really powerful method of changing the law if you can convince the judge that you've got logic on your side. On the other hand, a weakness is that, with the exception of High Court disputes involving the Constitution, all other decisions made by the courts can be abrogated by Parliament. So even if you win your case in court, Parliament might decide they don't like the court decision and they could overrule it or abrogate it by changing the law themselves. So there are a number of strengths and weaknesses to using the court system, but provided you've got the money, you've got the legal representation to help you out, going to court and winning a court case can often be one of the single most powerful ways to make immediate change happen. That's it, and I'll see you next time.